All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the DJ Gatsby Show. I'm your host, Jeff Gatsby Wilson. Today, we're with celebrated author of the highly acclaimed book, The Shadow of Obscurity, Arif Khatib. The book is due to be released on November 22nd, I believe, at Elva Nelson Hayes Productions. He's here to talk to us about his books, his travels. Very interesting brother. I got to speak to him briefly off camera before the show started, and I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting interview. So now call your family, friends, co-workers, church members, and everybody who you know, and tell them that Arif Khatib is on Facebook Live, the DJ Gatsby Show, and have them tune in. So Arif, my brother, welcome to the show.
My pleasure, DJ. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, I heard good things about you. Elba Nelson Hayes is a mutual friend of ours. I understand she's the publisher who's going to be publishing your book.
Yeah.
And I've worked with her closely over the years. And, I'm happy to have you as a guest today.
It's my pleasure.
All right. So for my viewers, real quickly, man, tell them, who you are, where you're from, and what is it that you do?
My name is Arif Khatib, and I'm the founder of the African American Sports Hall of Fame, who ultimately became the Multi-Ethnic Sports Hall of Fame. Presently, I'm producing a film and writing another book. This will be the second book finished this year.
Wow, you got a lot on the plate. I'm looking at the bio. You've done a lot in the past. You're going to cover those things. But I'm glad to see that you're still writing. I'm looking forward to the first book. We're going to talk about that real quick. But yeah, man, I got a lot to cover. We got 30 minutes for the show, and then hopefully give you a chance to touch upon some of the many things that you've done. Now, where you're from, it says here that you're a world traveler, and your book talks about your travels. But where you're from, where'd you grow up, and after high school or college, what did you start doing?
I was born in Arkansas on a farm, central Arkansas, and moved to California. And then did the usual. I went to middle school here. At that time, it was called junior high, and high school, the junior college over there. Then I moved to Oakland, and I've lived in Oakland since then. It's been my home, but I've traveled, as you suggested, from there all over the world, and that's been my base.
Okay, so you grew up in Arkansas. You moved to California. Now this is the 60s, 70s. When you come out to California, have you started your career, or you still trying to find your way in the world?
Oh, I was a young man when I left Arkansas. I was like that, 13 years old.
Okay. All right, so you come to California, Sunshine State. What'd you do? Spend most of your time on the beaches surfing, or you started a career and found a passion that you wanted to pursue?
Quite the contrary. The first thing I did was to become acclimatized to the fact that I come from a colored school.
Okay.
Straight up segregation and racism, to California, where it was an integrated school. So the first couple of years was an adjustment for me, both physically and mentally, before I began to do some other things. And I started playing basketball in high school, and after that, I kind of settled down a little bit, and things were okay after that. Right?
All right, so yeah, you talked about your affiliation or starting the Sports Hall of Fame, and so I'm going to ask you, were you an athlete? Were you really into sports? Is that something you were a fan of, or do you like to participate in?
I played basketball. And not on a higher level, but I played. And I got very close to a number of athletes in football, baseball, and basketball, and began to manage some of their careers.
Okay.
There, just so many things to do. But the sports, that's about how I got into sports. But there are a lot of other things I did.
Okay. All right. So, what do your first job, your career start? What do you do after high school? Because again, I mentioned here in the bio that you love to travel, and you been in a lot of books and magazines. let's talk about the highlights of your life, some of the achievements that you've accomplished as a young man.
DJ, like probably most young men, you don't know what you want to do.
Okay.
To some extent, misdirected. I was looking for where I was supposed to go and what I was supposed to do. But I found out early on that I didn't want to become a full-time employee.
You didn't want to work for nobody. You wanted your own business.
And so I planned accordingly.
Okay.
I made sure that my education would provide me an opportunity to do that. I spent a lot of time in business. I studied some law. I studied some medicine. I just did a little bit of everything, and my bio is probably limited to what the things I've done, but I spent a bit of time in music. I just followed my feelings and where the education took me and where my desires took me, but made sure that it wasn't to a job from 8 to 5 every day.
All right. So it seems you had that entrepreneurial spirit. Me and you both talked about that again briefly. You had hopes, dreams, and aspirations. You come from Arkansas, you're in California, and obviously, you've seen opportunities there, and where your education and life experience are going to take you. So it shows you that you started a business. You started a company. You got in the music business. Tell us how you got in the music business. I mean, you had a record company, you were a publisher, a promoter. What is it that you did in the record business, and when does that take place?
Yeah, actually, DJ, most of the opportunities were presented to me, but I consider myself just being there at the right time and having the desire and the ambition to explore that. And getting into the music business was quite. I wouldn't say by accident, because it was supposed to happen. I was appointed the director and coordinator for Congressman Ron Dellum's campaign in the early 1970s. And from that, I decided that I would do some fundraisers for him. So I chose some various entertainers to do fundraisers for him, and when there was no longer a need to do the fundraisers, I established my own company, West Coast Productions, and then began to promote and produce the entertainers that was working for him.
All right, that's a nice transition.
Yeah,
you went for doing the fundraisers, and now after that's over, you have a relationship with artists, companies, promoters, people in the industry, and you take advantage of those relationships. But as an entertainer, I mean, I understand you did concert promotions. You were in boxing, the promoter. It seems like you're a promoter, and whatever people wanted to see, you brought it to them. Whether it's the music, whether it's other sports that's going to have an arena or have an entertainment. Who were some of the people you worked with? And you mentioned Ron Dellum. Now, he's a politician. I've heard that name. He's a West Coast politician, obviously. So you went into the politics, and now you're into entertainment. How was that experience as a young man?
DJ, I am not boasting, but I was the very first African American that I know who did fundraisers for African American politicians. Right?
Okay, that's where I know that name.
But I told him that we should use some of the black entertainers to do concerts for him as a fundraiser. And he said, let's go for it. He was a good friend. And I started from there. As I indicated, during that time, DJ, it was not like today where you're running, everybody's asking for money and running every day. During that time, when you did not, if you weren't running for a political position, they weren't fundraising. So I took that opportunity to transition into being the promoter, as you suggested. And from there, I established a number of jazz festivals. I got to know the entertainers, and we do that. That was another move.
That had to be an exciting time, man. 70s, it was about Black pride.
Yep.
Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. It was a good time for black people in the 70s with the freedoms and everything that was going on, man.
That's right.
Kudos to you for doing that. A lot of things went out on the West Coast. As a young man, I heard about the concerts and Watts or Oakland, Compton, places like that. It was a lot of pride. Same. I was from New York, and in New York, it was basically the same thing on the East Coast. Now, after that, what do you do? Because you mentioned it, and as I see your bio, you've touched bases with a lot of different industries, and you stayed busy. What I do see is a connection to the black community. I see a connection of giving back and uplifting black people. Where does that come from? Is that your upbringing? Is that something you were? I know it was a time for that. But where does that connection come from? Because I'm seeing it in your bio. You're very, very pro-black and interested in helping black people in everything that you've done.
DJ, it may have started when I was a kid in Arkansas.
Okay.
Pride in the fact that black people were so ostracized and treated so badly.
Okay.
That it was sort of like I wanted to give back, and because the nation, like today, because the nation is so polarized, it was racism and stuff. My training and my background has been very, very helpful and timely, by the way.
Yeah. It was a very volatile time. It was a good time for black people. It was a very volatile time in America. Assassinations of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Kennedy, and it goes on. Now, I'm going to kind of change lanes here a little bit. It says you also were involved with the labor movement, that you worked at the University of California in Berkeley. And I see a lot of good things you did there, working with women's business enterprises, affirmative actions, youth, crimes, drug abuse. Tell us a little bit about your time there at the University of California in Berkeley, and how you got involved with all of these issues that were just decimating the black communities. Man, it help needed to be there, and I see that you were on the front lines doing that. You're a radio host, and you did a lot of things. Tell us a bit about that community activism and some of the things you did at that time in your life.
Yeah, the at the Institution of Industrial Relations at UT Berkeley, I taught a course up there in business to prepare black people to go into the labor force, to become managers of the labor force and lead unions.
Yes.
When the contract was over, I established a consulting company of my own and went out and got a couple others. I was with minority contracts. We got a contract with affirmative action with another group. It just evolved from one event to the other. As opportunities came, I saw them and I embraced them. And people realized then at that time, I suppose, that not only was I pro-black, but I was dedicated and I had some abilities. And so I didn't have to look for contracts. They came to me.
Yeah. You speak about this thing very humbly, but it's a big deal. A lot of things like that don't go on today. In the black community, we don't have the support. We don't have the funding. And in a lot of instances, we don't have the interest from athletes and entertainers and people who like to give back. I mean, drugs, crime still goes on. Unemployment still goes on. And when I read a bio from a brother like you, that you've been on the front lines, working with brothers coming out of prison and consulting with athletes and entertainers, it's just refreshing, man. So if you see me stopping to bring more attention to those things, I don't want to gloss over it, and I'm just so proud to have met a brother who was back in the struggle, back in those days, man, because like I said, I grew up in New York, and the struggle was real. We had to fight for identity as Black people. We had to fight civil rights movement and civil rights act just passed, but we still had to fight to take advantage of the opportunities that the Civil Rights Act gave us. So kudos to you for doing that. Now it says here you were in radio as well, man.
Yeah.
How was that experience, man? Because radio DJs are cool. I saw back in the 70s. That's when I got my love for radio and DJs back then. How was that experience, man, for you?
Well, it's interesting again how I got into that. I wasn't looking for a lot of these things; it just fell into me. I was working for James Brown at the time.
Okay, Godfather Soul, James Brown.
We developed a stamp called the Black and Brown stamp, and James Brown's picture was on it. And my job was to take that across the country and implement it. And so we at that time we bought 30 minutes of time in various urban areas. And I developed a show from there called I'm Black and I'm Proud. And we moved that show around. And when that was over, then I had an opportunity to become a DJ in one of the same cities that we left from.
Yeah, man.
And then later on, started my own talk show. And oh my God. It was all good. DJ, it was all good. I met some wonderful people, and I like to believe that I helped a lot of folks. And that's really what it was all about for me, was helping somebody. Wow.
Once again, everybody, it's the DJ Gatsby Show. I'm your host, DJ Gatsby. We're here with celebrated author, entertainer, activist, educator, Arif Khatib from California. Now, I got the bio that you're from California. What part of California?
I'm in Oakland.
Wow.
Oaktown, bro.
Oakland, the Bay Area, man, is like the Mecca of Black excellence and Black culture and Black art to me. I haven't been out there. Just the people that I keep hearing about and meeting in this industry are all from Oakland. It's like Harlem is to New York City. Everybody knows Harlem is the Mecca, the center of Black culture on the East Coast. And whenever I think about Oakland and that area, I think about the Last Poets and the Black Panthers and all of these brothers out there, man, who continue to strive for greatness, man, and Black pride and unity, man. So I didn't want to say you're from Oakland, and you weren't. I was on last week with a brother, Sean Garth, and he said, "Hey, I'm from West Oakland," and I inadvertently said East Oakland. He was like, "Whoa, wait a minute, let's get it right. Make sure you're representing where I am and what I do correctly, man." So big shout out to Oakland. I keep telling my friends out there that whenever I do come out to Cali, it's not LA and San Francisco and Hollywood that I would like to visit, but I would like to visit Oakland. I would like to visit Watts. I would like to visit Compton because those are the cities and areas in California that I think of when I think of Black people, Black struggle, and Black culture. So just wanted to put that in, man.
Then do it.
Yeah. All right. Again, like I said, it's DJ Gatsby, Arif Khatib. If you're watching the show, streaming us live on Facebook, please call your family, friends, Facebook friends. Tell them to tune in. Tell them to check us out. Arif Khatib is on here. A very interesting brother. 30 minutes is not going to do him justice. I'm sitting here looking at the bio, and I'm trying to gloss on as many of the things that you've done, and particularly in the Black community, man, in sports and entertainment. And I'm just still amazed at the body of work that you've done. Now, I want to talk about this African American Hall of Fame that you started. You said it's now a multi-ethnic Hall of Fame, which is politically correct. We are inclusive. We're not trying to exclude nobody. We're trying to be inclusive. But I understand how you started off as the African American Hall of Fame back in 2020. So take us from the beginning, and where the idea came from and the process of starting the Hall of Fame. And then we can talk about, who has been inducted.
We'll come back just a little bit there, because up until 2000, when I founded the Hall of Fame, I owned a record label. I transitioned from being the promoter and manager of athletes to starting my own record label. Okay. And just at that time, what they call hip hop today, we call rap.
Yes,
and
sir.
Rap was just emerging in 2000, and 1996 and 97, 98. And I didn't want to be in the forefront of that. My label was having jazz, blues, and gospel,
Sure.
and R&B, and I didn't want to be part of that. And so
Okay.
I decided at that time that I was going to go and do something else. So I took a sabbatical for a couple of weeks up in Lake Tahoe to decide where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And my mind took me to filling the void of African Americans in the Hall of Fame. When we talk about like in the NBA, you have 80% of the players are black,
Absolutely.
and a large percentage in the NFL. Not so much in baseball now, but at that time there was about 19% black
Yeah.
in baseball. And so, but they were disproportionately inducted into the Hall of Fame. So I was filling the void. So when
Yeah.
I established the African American Sports Hall of Fame, it was supposed to be solely and specifically for African Americans. But in 2009, because the world is so diversified and multicultural, I added white athletes to the Hall of Fame and changed
Sure.
it into multi-ethnic sports Hall of Fame. And it's now in its 21st year. We've done over 375 athletes and honored probably 275 or 80 students and community people.
All right. So now the Sports Hall of Fame. That's what I wasn't able to get as much information as I could simply because of the short time I had to prepare for the interview.
Yeah.
But this is not simply professional athletes. Um,
Yeah, let me stop you there. It's exclusively for professional athletes. When I mention students and community people, this Hall of Fame is the only Hall of Fame in the world that honors community people at the same time they induct athletes. Those
okay.
who are community whole, those who made major contributions to the community, the students who are doing great work and great job, I bring them on stage and
Okay.
and honor them when we induct the athletes. But yeah, you have to be a retired professional athlete. Now, you don't have to be retired for 5 years, but you have to be retired.
Yeah. You know what? Now that you mentioned that aspect, when I do see these award shows, a lot of times they do have people who are in the community, young coaches, people who are molding the minds of young athletes during that journey, or people who were instrumental in their lives. So I could see where that correlation comes. Because if
Yeah,
you get a professional athlete, he didn't get there by himself. There was a coach, there was a teacher, there was a mentor, there was somebody in the community who supported them. And I see why you're honoring those people. And I never really looked at it like that, man. And that's a great testament to this particular sports Hall of Fame. So how's been the recognition, or what has been the acceptance of your Hall of Fame? Because you got pros and cons. You got people who agree and disagree. What have been some of the response you've gotten, particularly from the black community and black athletes, once you started the hall and started inducting people?
we've had overwhelming success and acceptance on this Hall of Fame. It's a nonprofit, so I put a
Okay.
number of hundreds of thousands of dollars into it myself because I believed in it, number one, and secondly, it was needed. But this Hall of Fame is now all over the world. I've inducted athletes in Kenya, Ethiopia,
Okay.
Tanzania,
Wow.
Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands,
Okay.
Seattle, New York, just everywhere. I had 4 or 5 ceremonies a year,
Okay.
different parts of the world. We go to the athlete because we're a nonprofit, and I didn't expect the support from white America, and so I had to be real. We had to
Yeah.
do what we had to do. Instead of bringing the athletes to us, we went to the athletes.
Great. And I like
We're
that.
also known in their community, which to some extent assured success because people want to come out and show their appreciation for these athletes coming from the various regional parts of the nation. So I went to them instead of them coming to me. But the Hall of Fame was established basically to broaden the public understanding of the African American contribution to American sports, and actually it contributed to sports and society. And DJ, because the sport has the power to change the world.
Yes, sir.
It was easy to make that transition and get the support that we needed. Very little support from corporate America, nor did I expect it, nor did I care to get it. I take care of my own.
Yeah. No, a very interesting point, man. African American athletes of color.
Yeah.
Around the world.
Black and brown.
Yeah, black and brown around the world contributed so much through sports. They've raised political agendas. They're not afraid to speak out from that platform. From the brothers back in the 70s, Muhammad Ali, some of the other brothers who spoke out, John Carlos and the brothers in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And a lot of the athletes in Africa and other continents. So yeah, that's a testament and a tribute to them, and it shouldn't be dismissed. It should be brought to the forefront, man. And I got to tip my hat to you for having the insight to do that. You've done so many things, and you've been so many places, and it seems like you just.
John Collins was on my first board in 2000. I called him up there on the board. He said, "You got it."
Yeah, man. I mean, I watched some brothers in the Olympics. It was at Mexico City, when they stood with the fists up and to bring attention, man, to things that are happening to Black people in America, man. So yeah, you've shown a consciousness to the state of Black people and the struggle of Black people and everything that you've done, man, and you put it out, you put it to the forefront, unapologetically. You didn't ask for help, you didn't ask for permission. And you stood strong and firm in what you were doing, man. Kudos to you on that. All right, so now I wanted to cover those things, man, because I saw the bio. I saw the bio and I was amazed, man. I was like, okay, here's another great interview. Here's another hidden gem in the Black community. Here's another hidden gem in our nation who's here has a mission and that we need to hear about. Yeah, I call the people out on my show unsung heroes. The TV show Unsung. A lot of people that I feel they're unsung because I don't know you, not because you don't have the recognition that you deserve. But again, back to my point, we came on to talk about the book.
Yeah.
So let's get to the book, The Shadow of Obscurity, Toiling in Reluctant Societies. Tell us a bit about the title and how it came about.
When I first thought of this book, it was going to be a companion for the film that we have called Because They Believe, that I've been developing for a number of years, and we're going to finish before the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It was to be a companion book, and at the time I was going to name the book Toiling in Obscurity. These are basically an extension of the mission of the Hall of Fame was to
yes,
honor the unheard-of.
I get it.
So then it evolved into in the shadows of obscurity, toiling in a reluctant society, because these folks had some tough time getting to where we are. We go back into the 1800s in this book, but most of it's from 1940s to date.
Yes.
There's athletes in that book that some people have never heard of, but they made major contributions to American sports. And the same thing in the film. The people in the film athletes in the film aren't in the book, and vice versa, because there were so many of them. I wanted the people to know every athlete. So we covered them in the book, and when we didn't cover in the book, I covered in the film.
You're talking about athletes. I'm a historian. I love to read. And you're right. African-American athletes, Black athletes, have always been in the forefront.
Absolutely.
But they've never been in the spotlight. They didn't get a chance to play in professional sports, specifically with the Negro League in baseball. Didn't get a chance to play football. But in my, again, I grew up in the 70s. I heard about people like Jim Thorpe. I've heard of people like Wilma Rudolph. I've heard of people like Arthur Ashe. A lot of these African-American, these Black athletes who had an opportunity to shine, it was on an international stage more than nationally because we weren't accepted in specific sports. The Olympics, for one, you know, we were included in the Olympics early on before we even played professional sports. So the book is about Black athletes, athletes of color, and their contribution for sports here in this nation. And the title is They're in the Shadow of Obscurity. It's about the athletes. Is that what the title is saying? It's about the athletes.
Yeah. You're talking about, you mentioned a little while ago, Jim Thorpe.
Yeah.
There's been 2 indigenous athletes in the history
Sure.
that has gone on to win a gold medal. The second one,
Olympics.
ran the 10,000 meters in 1964. And Billy Mills is in the film. He has an incredible story. It's just an incredible story. It brings tears to you to hear how they treated him, and he went on to win the gold medal for the United States.
Representing his country.
Something there that's important because some people don't realize what these athletes have done, what they had to go through, and the contributions they made. Up until 1964, the United States had never won the 10,000 meters. You know what? They haven't won it since. So if you don't have this one, what they call Indian, a Native American, or indigenous person, the United States would be shut out in the Olympics in the 10,000 meters. Nobody talk about that. But but there are a number of other athletes in it. We talked about Mamie Peanut Johnson, who's the first, the second baseman, a pitcher, and the Negro League with Satchel Paige.
Yes. Okay.
Interesting story on that. Kurt Flood.
I'm familiar with these brothers, man. You're talking about now. You get a little more recent now, but so thanks for telling me really about the book, man. Now but what was the inspiration for that? I mean, I get the Hall of Fame, but now you talked about the film now, and I saw the clips from that film on YouTube that you're talking about. Let's talk about that film and that clip. And is it a documentary? Is it a movie? What is the title of it again?
Because They Believed.
Because They Believe.
Because They Believed. And that title came from when I was interviewing some of my friends and talking to some of my friends and athletes. And I said, tell me, how do you achieve these things?
Wow.
He said, because I believed I could.
I get it now.
Okay, so I named the film Because They Could. They did that because they could do that, and they could achieve those things. But the book is designed, like I mentioned earlier about the polarization that we're experiencing right now. The book is designed to hopefully help combat hate and discrimination and the unfair treatment that Black and brown people experience on a daily basis.
Yeah.
We want them to know that we have made major contributions to this country, and it should be recognized. And I don't wait for America to recognize them.
Wow. Absolutely.
I took the initiative to recognize them myself, and I'll continue to promote them in every way I can.
Yeah. Once again, it's DJ Gatsby. It's DJ Gatsby Show, man. We're with Arif Khatib. Brother, you're one of the most interesting, intellectual, and articulate guests I've ever had. I'm a sports fan, sports lover, sports enthusiast, and it's just a pleasure to speak to you. I'm going to add sports historian to one of the many titles that you have, because your knowledge of these athletes, kind of supersedes the accomplishments when you start talking about what they had to go through to just participate, what they had to go through to make these teams, or what they had to go to just to be a part of something. And I like the way the documentary ties it in, because they obviously believed they were the best in the world. They believed they were the most gifted athletes on the planet, and they had to prove it. Because feeling that you one way, and because, like you said, white America doesn't allow you to compete, or the world doesn't allow you to compete, and they're claiming to be world champions in sports that you're not allowed to participate in. So I get it when these brothers and sisters break that color line, break that color barrier, come in and do these historic things, and it's not publicized. It's not getting the recognition that it deserves. And it was just a matter of a time before someone comes along and shines the spotlight on the activities, the struggles that these athletes went through, man. So again, man, kudos to you, man, and what you're doing. I got to bring you back, man. Matter of fact, I'm gonna be talking to you on the phone, man. This is nothing to do with the interview. I'm a student. You're talking about something that's got my interest. I have family, friends, and things that I would like to speak to about things like this and share that knowledge with the next generation who won't get a chance to read the book or may not get a chance to see this interview. But things like that, when you talk to sports, about sports, people want to know. When they say who's the best, who's the greatest, who's the first, that's one thing. But knowing about the history and the things that people went through, the struggles that they went through, the sacrifices that they made in order to participate, I'm not sure that today's athletes or today's fans really understand that aspect. Once again, it's DJ Gatsby, man. We're with DJ Gatsby Show. I know we're running over, but that's all right. Yeah, brother Arif Khatib here, man. You got something you want to say there real quick?
Yeah, what you just said there, you talk about these athletes today are standing on the shoulders of these folks in this book.
Yes.
There are 24 chapters of athletes and 300 pages in this book. And I can assure you that many folks have never heard of some of them. Mm-hmm. Some of them have, but they won't get the in-depth of it that we went through in this book. And if anyone is interested in getting more information, they can call me at 510-629-2895, and I give them all the information they need to know about the book when it comes out and how they can get it. They can get it on Amazon and a number of other places. But we do that. One last thing, you mentioned you're from New York, and you mentioned Wilma Rudolph. I inducted her in Harlem.
Wow. What
I inducted this Hall of Fame in Harlem, bro.
A lot of people don't know she was looked upon as the greatest athlete in the world at her time, man. And in some circles of all time, and again, go ahead.
Pull up the Multi Sports Hall of Fame and look at the names of some of the folks on that we've inducted. Yeah,
as I told you, I didn't get a chance to do my research as I would have with somebody of your stature, with somebody who's accomplished as much as you do, and and in defense to that, when I was contacted about the interview with Elvin Nelson Hayes, Elvin Hayes Productions, say, hey, it's a great guy. I'm publishing a book for him. You might want to have him as a guest on your show. So I'm like, okay, bring him on. Let's talk. Short bio. And as I did my research, I said, wow, this brother right here is an amazing talent. And the fact that he's put Black people's and civil rights and dignity and respect up front is a testament to who you are and what you've done, man. And I want to give you kudos to that. I see you're still doing that. Obviously, you're not done.
Oh, absolutely not. We don't tell these stories to tell stories. We tell these stories to teach.
But there's a message. Your education. These are history books, man. I would be surprised to see them referenced in classrooms or universities when these conversations come up, man. So
I can tell you about that. That's already happened.
All right. We only got 30 minutes. We're almost running into 40. The title of the book is The Shadow of Obscurity, Toiling, Reluctant Society. I understand it's going to be released to Amazon and other book networks, places you can buy books on November 22nd. Is that the date that I got from your publisher?
Yeah, they can do pre-orders right now. She told me today they can do pre-orders right now, but it's official.
Pre-orders are available. All right, so go look for that book at Amazon. And the authors Arif Khatib, and the title again, The Shadow of Obscurity, Toiling in a Reluctant Society. So what can people look forward from you in the future? You talked about the movie. You talked about another book. On a grander scale, when I look at you or when I talk to you, it's like you got a lot going on up here. There's a lot of things you'd like to do. There's a lot of things you'd like to accomplish, man. So give me an idea of some of the things you'd like to accomplish and do, and people can look for in the future.
Well, first of all, what we're doing right now with the film, when we finish the film, we're having a screening in Oakland.
Okay.
We're having one in Sacramento because Dusty Baker is in the film. He's from Sacramento. He has a very interesting tale, stories to tell about when he was a young person up there, only black in the school.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
then from there, we have a film festival in Newport Beach, California. From there to Halifax, Nova Scotia. From there to Toronto. From Toronto to London. From there to Paris. And wherever we do in between. And wherever we go, the book goes with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we have a book signing. There will be a screening of the film at the same time. So the folks can get a real good flavor of exactly what these folks are all about, man, and how hard they fought for to gain some similarity of similars. But it just hasn't happened, man, for them.
All right. I see you're busy, man. Your phone's been ringing during the interview, man. I get it. I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to do that. Now, you mentioned your phone number you gave earlier. I'm going to put that in the bio. If somebody wants to contact you, they can. The information concerning the book or whatever else with Hayes Productions, I'm making sure I do that as well. The link for the trailer for the movie, Because They Believe, I'm going to be sharing that as well. And I probably can talk to you again off camera to get the information about the screening of the film when it's done and the places you're going to be going to during the tour to promote the film. You got a lot. You got a lot going on.
We got a lot of calls on you. We got a couple of calls here since we've been talking, since I put that number out there. A couple of people have already called, so they're listening to you. They're watching you.
All right, man. Again, Arif, man, thank you so much.
A lot of people who tune in.
It's very interesting, man. It's very interesting, my brother. I got to say, you're one of the most interesting guests I've had. It's my pleasure to have interviewed you. Promise me you'll come back on.
I promise. I like this again.
All right. So before we go, is there anything you want to say to anybody, supporters, friends, and family who've been riding with you on this journey all these years before we go?
Yes, I'd like to thank the co-author and editor of the book, Pete Elman, and also obviously Elvin Hayes Publishing for publishing the book, and for the many people who phoned about me being on the show. Thank you for that, and catch this brother again because he has a good show. He's quite professional. It's my first time on, but it won't be my last. And stay in touch. Anything you need, 510-629-2895, and I'll answer your questions about the book and the film.
All right. Once again, everybody, it's DJ Gatsby with the talk show. My guest, celebrated author and sports historian, just a man of many talents, Mr. Arif Khatib. Look in the comment sections of this interview to get his contact information. He gave out his phone number, call him direct. He's available. He makes time for people. He doesn't mind talking about who he is, where he's from, and what he does, and helpful in many ways. Big shout out to Pete Elman, you said, who's the co-author. I was hoping to get him for an interview as well. I wasn't able to get him here today, but he's a musician, journalist, author, and teacher from Washington, D.C. Obviously, very close to you because he said he's a co-writer on the book. So, Pete, if you're out there, you get a chance to talk, maybe we can get you and talk about what it is that you do. But Arif, man, thank you so much, my brother. We're going to have to end the show now. But again, man, God bless you. I wish you more success in all you've done. I like your attitude, not waiting for somebody to do something. You saw a need, you saw an opportunity. And it reminds me of James Brown said, I don't want nobody to give me nothing, open up the door, I get it myself. That's the spirit that you have, and I like that. I like that, my brother. You know, nobody's got
to man, I really appreciate it, all right?
Yeah.
You're doing a great job, and you're making a major contribution, okay? I appreciate it.
Thank you. It means a lot. All right, everybody. Thanks. Don't forget to join me tomorrow. My guest is going to be Sid Saki Stevens from Brooklyn, New York. She's going to be talking about sudden infant death syndrome, something that is near and dear to my heart and families all around the world. She has a fundraiser and a project to raise awareness and help find money for a cure at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the DJ Gatsby Show on Facebook Live. A good night, Arif. Good night, everybody watching. God bless, and stay COVID-free.
Stay well, bro.
Yes, sir.